Hi guys, Aussie Expat here. I've got an important video for you. I've got a Rolex secret. Well, an open secret anyway. So, quick wristwatch check. We've got the Rolex Explorer 36mm, the new one, the 2021 release. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about what are the differences between this 36mm and the previous generation 36mm Explorer. What are the differences and what does it tell us about Rolex? And interestingly enough, it tells us a little bit about the Submariner 41mm as well, and what Rolex's priorities are in terms of design. So as you can see from this picture, on the left, you've got the old Explorer 36, the 114270. On the right, you've got the 124270. Now, straight off the bat, I'm gonna say perceptually, the one on the right looks bigger. Now let's get into the details though. I'm gonna focus on the lugs, and you'll see in the lugs that the old one, they're very, very fine lugs. They look very slender, but to the point where they're perhaps not elegant anymore, where they look just too thin. They don't look great. The 20mm bracelet they used to have sort of comes in at that case, and it looks kind of oversized because of the lug taper and how thin they are, and it's sort of proportioned to the dial. And then you go to the new 36mm and it looks nice, basically. You don't have sort of like these super case lugs like on the Submariner 40, where you got the 3mm hanging off either side of the bracelet end links. But you do have this very tasteful, chunky lug. Not super slender, not super chunky, but somewhere in the middle where you go, that looks nice. And overall, having that thinner bracelet come into the Explorer, into the case, and onto the dial, obviously, in proportion, it just looks a lot better, I think, in my opinion. There are other differences here as well. The dial, all of the indices are bumped up just a touch in size, and now the numbered numerals now have lume. Before it was just paint. So what does this tell us about Rolex design in general? Well, it means that they are optimizing this view. Their compromise is going to be around the bracelet width, whether it's adding or subtracting width, to make it so that the lugs look good, more than super slim, elegant, but without going to the extremes that was the previous generation Submariner, and certainly not the extremes of more vintage watches where the lugs are very, very thin. And then when you get to this view behind, this is also going to look in proportion. So they didn't reduce the taper. They still wanted a taper coming back here onto the clasp. So they reduced the overall width of the clasp. So basically, Rolex have optimized this look, and this look. I mean, okay, so we've optimized everything, fine. But what they're willing to do is to use non-standard widths of the bracelet. So in this case, 19mm, which has not happened before on a 36mm size case, so that it optimizes the look from the head of the case, the side, and the clasp. They're willing to optimize that and stray away from traditional sizes, which is exactly what happened on the Submariner as well. The Submariner 41 has a 21mm bracelet width, and that way they can reduce the size of those lugs without having to compromise the look, like having a more acute angle coming back down. And Rolex being Rolex, they're not gonna half-ass it and then just slap on the same width bracelet. On the Explorer here, this has a clasp that is 1mm in width smaller than say a previous one. And on the Submariner, the clasp has increased by 1mm. So the taper sort of design looks nice from all angles. So that's my comparison of the two different Explorers. It tells us a little bit about Rolex design. Basically, They are not going to be slaves to the numbers, whether or not it means the sub turns from a 40mm case to quote unquote a 41mm case, and they don't care if someone flips this around and says, oh, that's a 19mm bracelet, because what matters is how it looks. Alright, so please don't like, don't subscribe, don't collect watches. If you do like watches, please comment down below and tell other people not to get them because I want them all.